Hey guys, today I'll be teaching you guys on how to make a jump detection script. So basically, as you can see, whenever I jump, there's a print statement that basically says player jumped. I'm going to teach you guys how to detect if a player jumps. So let's get right into it. Alright, so first things first, what you're going to be doing is create a local script under starter player scripts. And now first what we're going to do is we're going to get UserInputService by simply typing local UserInputService equals game get service UserInputService. And now after that, what we're going to do is we're going to check if the player gave a jump request by simply typing UserInputService dot jump request connect function, and we're going to hit enter. And after that, we're simply going to print player jumped. Alright, so now we're going to go back and let's see what actually happens. Alright, so now as you can see, if I keep jumping, the print statement does appear in the output, but the only issue is that the print statement keeps appearing. The event is firing a lot of times, and we don't want that. We only want this particular event to fire only once if the player jumped only once. And the issue here is this event is firing a lot of times, and we want to avoid that. So basically, in order to solve this issue, what we're going to do is I'm going to stop this and go back to the local script. And here what we're going to do is we're going to create a debounce, local db equals false. The reason why we're doing this is we're going to create a debounce which basically prevents the event from firing multiple times. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go inside the event and we're going to type if debounce equals false, then, and after that inside the debounce statement we're going to simply type debounce equals true, and only then we would print this statement. And after the statement we're going to wait for task.wait 0.3 seconds, and after that we're going to simply type debounce equals false. So here what is happening is that if debounce, so basically initially debounce is false, right? Debounce is false. And if debounce is false, then debounce automatically becomes true. So basically what that means that if this event, like first time, when this event is running for the first time, debounce is false, and then debounce becomes true. So if debounce is true, this event won't run until debounce becomes false. So now if you go and hit play, now if I jump, as you can see, the event is only being fired once per jump. And this is mainly because that the debounce is preventing the event from firing multiple times. Alright guys, so using jump request is a pretty neat way to check if a player jumped or not. But the only issue with using jump request is that this whole event fires only if the player gives a jump request. In other words, just because you're giving a jump request doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually jumping. So for example, I'm on a really tall block, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fall down, and when I fall, as you can see, when I fall, the jump event still gets fired when I press the jump button. But the problem is that I'm not actually jumping, I'm not exactly jumping, and I'm actually falling. And when I give a jump request when I fall, this whole event still gets fired, and we don't exactly want that. Like, this is fine, this is not a bad method to check if a player jumped, but the only issue is that just because you're giving a jump request doesn't necessarily mean that you are actually jumping. Which is why I'll be teaching you guys another method which basically checks if the player is actually jumping. Only then the print statement would get printed, or else this would not get printed. Alright, so basically what we're doing is we're going back to our local script, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply indent this whole script over here. And now after that, now what I'm doing is I'm going to get the player by simply typing local player equals game.players.local player. And after getting the player, we're going to create a function that fires if the character is being added. So here we're typing local local function on character added, and the parameter is going to be character. And now inside of this function, what we're going to do is we're going to get the humanoid by simply typing local humanoid equals character wait for child, and inside that we're going to put humanoid. And after that, what we're going to do is we're going to there's a special function that basically checks if the state of the humanoid is being changed. So here what I'm typing is humanoid dot state change connect function, and here there are two parameters, which is going to be old state comma new state. So basically here in this script, in this function, what exactly is going on? So what I'm doing is if the character gets added, we're simply connecting this event to the character, and this event is going to fire if the state of the humanoid gets changed. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to type if new state equals enum dot humanoid state type dot jumping then. So basically whatever inside of this if statement, like if the new state equals jumping, so basically if you're jumping, the new state becomes jumping. Like the old state is usually walking or running, and the new state becomes jumping, right? So if the new state becomes jumping, and what we are going to do is we're going to print player jumped. And that's pretty much it. That is how this function is going to work. And in the end, what we're going to do is we're going to get the player dot character added connect on character added. Remove the brackets. And now after that, one last thing is you're going to check if the character exists by simply typing if local player dot character then, and then we're also going to call this function on character added, and inside we're going to type player dot character. So basically what's happening here is that we're creating a function that basically runs if the character is being added, and the character is being added, this whole script runs. Like you get the humanoid, and then we check if, and it connects an event that basically checks if the state of the humanoid is being changed. And we're checking, and then we're checking if the new state equals jumping, and if it does equal to jumping, this print statement gets printed. The reason why we're putting character added and player.character is because sometimes this event does not run. Player.character added does not actually run if the character has already been added before this event is being called. Like that actually happens sometimes, which is why we're putting this if player.character then as well. We're putting this conditional statement as well initially just in case if the character has already been added before this event is being called. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go and hit play. And as you can see now, if I hit jump, you can see that this is also being printed. And now if I click stop, and if I spawn about this part, let me just resize it to a much higher part. And now if I hit play on this part, oh oh my god, I should have moved my camera a bit. Alright, so yeah, let me click on play. Bro, why do I keep spawning on the side? Like, bruh. Alright, let me just get this spawn point and put it right over here. Let me just click this and click on play. And as you can see, now if I try falling from this part, now when I spam click the jump button, like the print statement doesn't actually appear because the new state is not actually jumping and the new state is actually falling, which is why this print statement does not get printed. Which is why this method is generally better than this method. This is also not a bad method, but the only issue is that this print statement gets printed even if the player is not jumping. So yeah, depending upon where you're implementing this jump detector script, you can use whatever script you want. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's actually a really cool script, not gonna lie. Alright guys, thank you so much guys for watching this video. I really hope that this video gave a pretty valuable insight as to how jump detectors work. And I'll see you guys in the next video.